Will Smith's film Emancipation depicts the scars of whipped Peter, slavery. Whips had lacerated his back, creating an angry cacophony of twisted, swollen welts that crisscrossed his shoulders, rose over his spine, and stretched to his hip. He was hungry and exhausted after running for 10 days through poisonous snakes and alligators-infested bayous and swamps. White men chased him with bloodthirsty hounds as he ran toward freedom. This black man, whose scarred back bore witness to the brutal horrors of America's cruel institution of slavery, had escaped slavery on a Mississippi plantation and made his way to a Union camp in Baton Rouge during the height of the Civil War in 1863. "Who whipped you, Peter?" inquired the Union officers. The man who became known as Whipped Peter spoke little English and responded in French, the language of thousands of enslaved Africans in Louisiana and Mississippi. He told them that just before Christmas in 1862, an overseer whipped him with a leather strap. The white man had poured salt into Peter's open wounds, exacerbating the pain. They were taken aback. White photographers at the camp approached Peter and asked him to pose. The photos of Peter's scarred back that were later published in Harper's Weekly as wood carvings became known as the scourged back. The shadowy black and white photograph of Peter shows him with his back to the camera. He casts a glance over his left shoulder, revealing a silhouette of his face. His left hip is supported by his hand. The light in the photograph falls on the raised scars that run the length of his back. The scars on this black man's back would become a rallying cry for abolitionists and the anti-slavery movement in the North, revealing the inhumanity of slavery. The story of Whipped Peter is told in the new film Emancipation, which stars Will Smith. The film was inspired by photos of Peter taken during his medical examination at the Union Army camp in 1863. The drama, which was released in theaters on December 2nd and internationally on Apple TV on December 9th, follows Peter's escape from slavery and his never-ending quest for freedom. "I've long wanted to tell a story about the inhumanity of slavery," Antoine Fuqua, the film's director, said in a statement. Several social media critics, including Will Smith's daughter, have questioned whether another Hollywood film about the institution of slavery in the United States is necessary. Even Smith has stated that he has avoided making period films about enslavement throughout his career. However, he stated in an interview with FabTV that this film is unique. "This isn't another slave film. This is a film about liberty. There can never be too many movies, documentaries, or films depicting the heinous truth of slavery, which white supremacists have attempted to erase from history. Some people are only now learning about the true horrors of what occurred. So much was buried in swamps and mass graves, hidden in attics." While erecting monuments to Confederate soldiers, white historians obscured and distorted the story. "We've never been told the whole story about slavery in this country," W. Marvin Dulaney, president of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, said. "I can go through 12 years of education and not learn anything substantial about slavery. They mythologize slavery for the first 155 years of this country's history." Dulaney, an emeritus associate professor of history and former interim director of the Center for African American Studies, stated that historians portrayed enslaved Africans as inhumane. "It was written that owners and masters had to train them to pick cotton," Dulaney explained. "They portrayed them as people who arrived from Africa with no skills. We've attempted to tell the truth about slavery through historiography. This country was built by Africans. We must tell that story all the time." During the course of the war, African Americans were running at the start, first by the tens, then the hundreds, then by the thousands, Dulaney said, freeing themselves and making slavery the key issue of the Civil War. "This brother with welts on his back represents it all."